Good morning and welcome to the latest edition of Gold, Goats, and Guns here on YouTube and Periscope. My name's Tom Luongo. I hope everybody's having a great morning. Set up. I want to talk about something. I want to go a little off topic. Pretty much nothing but geopolitics anymore. But I want to talk about some other stuff and politics too. But I want to talk about something that came up in the last 24 hours. It was a couple of different conversations that I've had with Lee Stranahan about QAnon. I know you guys, and I've talked to you guys in the past, that I've always felt that Q was a LARP and that wasn't really something that we should be spending a lot of time with. But it came up this morning when I was on fault lines with Lee, and it came up yesterday when I was watching one of his Periscopes, and it was just, it was funny, right? That Lee made a very, very good point, and I want to bring it up. Morning, Thordoom, how are you? That, yeah, I don't pay attention to Q either, and I know a lot of you here don't, along with me, but I want to bring it up in general to the audience, because it's a very important, subtle point that we all can work with when it comes to all of this. And that is, and where Lee is getting really frustrated with all of this is doesn't matter whether Q's real or not. It doesn't matter whether he's really connected and an insider or he's not. It doesn't matter. And I've always said that at a certain level, Q to me always seemed like a LARP because I could be Q. I have half a dozen people in my life who are as plugged in and as connected and can synthesize data and information. And we could spend a couple of hours every night on Skype and in a writer's room environment and write what Q writes. It's not that hard. Okay. And be right just enough to feed the beast. But what Lee brought up was the very fact that people are using Q as a means by which to not act. From his perspective, it's about not acting, not calling congressmen to complain about the DOJ, not prosecuting the Iwans, for example, or pressuring congressmen to truly shut down the Mueller investigation, which is a complete bed of nonsense. This whole idea that there's a plan and that we should trust it is quite, and I don't mean to be rude here, but it's quite infantile. So I guess I am going to be rude. And I mean this sincerely. The whole thing robs you of your agency, robs you of your skepticism, robs you of your responsibility to do what needs to be done to fight for whatever it is that you believe in. By sitting here, it's no different. My mom was very Catholic. I think I've talked about this before. And no matter what happens, it was always, well, it's all in God's hands. Well, no, you have a responsibility for your actions. And one of the things that is distressing about human interpretations of religions is the very fact that it's been perverted by people who don't want to take responsibility, who don't feel like they have any power to say, well, God will take care of it all. No. The whole purpose of religion is to give you the self-confidence and and to empower you to the point where you can take responsibility for your actions, take control of your life, and go forward. That's the whole purpose. And so when I see guys like Praying Medic completely down the Q hole, like daily doing these 30 and 40 deep Twitter threads about what Q meant by this and that. I'm like, dude, this is nothing but the second coming of Jesus. This is nothing but more of that whole stupidity that it's the cult of the orange Jesus and Trump has a plan. It's the same thing I've been arguing with many people around here about, having faith that Trump's got this. Hold my beer, Trump's got this. Bullcrap. He's just a man. And he's fighting a very, very difficult fight. And if we sit here and, trust the plan, nonsense. Right, it's Jesus Q. Crazy. And moreover, and this is the point that this is the point that needs to be made. If I were the bad guys, what better psyop would there be than to create this guy? If I were the CIA, if I were the bad guys, if I was Brennan and the rest of those, you know exactly what I would do? I would create QAnon. Because the MAGA crowd, the very conscientious, open, desirous of fundamental political change, also a high correlation with fundamental Christianity and that conscientiousness that exists, those people, and they mean really, really well. And they can be easily manipulated with these heroic, utopian, messianic narratives. It's easy. They're already receptive to it. So why wouldn't you use it? Why wouldn't you use that against them in order to split the right and harden the divide between left and right? So you continue to ridiculously and egregiously prosecute the culture war at every level, even though everybody knows it's all a bunch of bullshit. But all that does is make people on the right even more willing and more receptive to this, and be willing to defend Trump in every way, even when he's wrong, and to be receptive to this QAnon bullcrap. It's a perfect psyop. It's a perfect way to rob people of their agency, to rob people of their reason, to rob people of their skepticism. Yes, I'm on YouTube as well. You don't think so? Dude, I tweeted out one thing yesterday and supportively on this, and I immediately got attacked by 15 people. It's a cult. They don't want to listen to me anymore. Or people like me. They've been attacking Stranahan left and right. Yeah, I'm simulcasting on YouTube, and the YouTube chat isn't coming through Restream because I did it. So I have to read both chats at the same time, which is kind of frustrating, but it is what right. So yeah, there is. Because what's going to happen is the same thing that's happening on the left. Look, we have Bernie Sanders is now too far to the right for the really hardcore leftists. Did you see that? You don't think that that's going to continue to happen as more people get off look, once you start down the ideological path, it starts to dominate. And once it may not be happening yet, which I disagree with, Buck. I think it's actually happening. I think it started with Adam Gingrich getting mad at me for not being pure enough. I mean, dude, go look at what's happening. Okay? No, what the best part about this is that the center is hardening around Trump, which is good. Which is exactly what I expected to happen. But this QAnon stuff, absolutely crazy. People dismiss you right if you call a Q a LARP. Random people will come out of the woodwork, and it's just sad. So, if you wanted to create a better psyop than QAnon, I dare you to try and come up with one, because he's perfect for it. And the whole concept, the whole purpose of it, is to get people to be complacent and lazy, and completely complacent and lazy. Okay. So, Misconius, I'm sub to you on YouTube, but I don't see you in my feed. That's interesting. I wouldn't be surprised. If you didn't get the notification, you have to go into notifications, when I go live, you have to go into your notifications and click the always receive button, because if you don't do that, then you'll never get a notification, because that YouTube is actively suppressing things. So you really have to take control of that stuff. I don't know what else to tell you beyond that. It's YouTube's terrible. So, and but it is what it is, and it's still a better dissemination platform in the long run than Periscope is. Yeah, the very fact. Okay, so TX History Lover brings up the fact that the very fact that you have to decipher the codes is ridiculous. Well, of course, because they don't actually have any information. That's beyond what we talk about here in the scope every day. User 13 on YouTube brings up that the left has always been on the trajectory for their entire lives as to where they're going. It was inevitable they go commie. Well, yeah, but at the same time, the scary part is, I don't want the right turning fascist. I don't want the right turning ultra nationalist and it turning into this really ugly divide. Okay. And I really feel that I think it's inevitable anyway, but it's, I think it's inevitable anyway, but, you at least have to try. So Buck says, complacency or revolution? What's the solution? Congress is bought off and doesn't listen. The solution is, I think QAnon is actually designed as a Psy-Op to suppress turnout in November. Don't worry, Trump's got this. I don't need to work hard. I don't need to canvass. I don't need to organize. I don't need to run for office. No. Trump's got a plan. Don't trust the plan. It's also a great way to suppress discussion. It's no different than paid Soros trolls coming in and trying to, derail your Twitter conversations all the time. It's the same thing. Designed to poke you and make you and put you on the defensive and waste your time. So yesterday, I got involved in that. And called Q a cult, and then some guy comes back, and it's funny. And whenever I get any kind of response on Twitter that's can be vaguely considered hostile. Hell, it doesn't matter who it is. If I don't know the person's name and they're replying to me in some way, I always check their profile first to see who they are and then try and figure it out. And if they have less than 50 or 75 followers, I generally don't respond to them, because it's a waste of time, because they're probably a paid troll. But this guy in particular had like 23,000 followers, and he comes back and says, define cult. I'm like, no. Well, actually, that's not what I said. What I said was, fuck you. Because that was not my point. And I found it really funny that, and I knew Lee Stranahan was going to bring this up this morning because of this exchange, and because I knew exactly what he was trying to do, which was he was trying to pick out the one word in my tweet that he could then argue with me about. We can argue about definitions and not actually get to any kind of conclusion about anything. I just cut that shit off at the pass, because the truth of the matter is he didn't want to hear the fact that I thought Q was a cult. The whole QAnon thing was a cult, and he was a LARP. As far as, I don't know that Q is I think Q is an attempted side. I think Q is an attempt at this. But at the same time, I think the Democrats on the hard left are out of anybody's control at this point. I mean, when Bernie Sanders is too far to the right. Yeah, I mean, Buck, you and I will agree on this. Buck is saying that Q or no Q, the Democrats are creating a sense of urgency within the Republican base. I happen to agree with you, right? That effect is far bigger than Q. I just want to make sure that going forward, that we stop this bullshit of the cult of the orange Jesus, that we stop the cult of QAnon or Trump or any. It's not about people. It's not about trusting a plan. There is no freaking plan, man. There is just people responding to day-to-day things. Trump may have a plan, and that's cool. And I hope that plan involves doing all the things that we all want to see done. Do I believe that he's capable of pulling all of that off in real time without mistakes? No. Will it be tense? Will it be crazy? Yes. Is it my job to point all that stuff out? I think so. Right. I like Trump. I love what he's doing. I want him to continue to just screw things up for the powers that be. And it has to do with undermining Trump as a... It has to do with Fuck, it has absolutely everything to do with Trump. QAnon is all about trying to... Look, if... It's all about trying to get people distracted with that while they work on other things. That's... Right, and you spend all of your time thinking... And and I think, actually, I'm going to go back as we do this. User 13 counterpoints with the cult of the orange Jesus prevents people from thinking ahead to what they want and how they're going to get there. Exactly. We sit here talking about tactics and not about strategy. Cynical skeptic pipes up with, when the Q loonies went after Assange, it was clear to me what was going on. Exactly. And they're still going there. But I'm telling you, it's no different. Honestly, it's no different than the hard alt-right Nazi guys wanting to blame everything on the Jews. It robs them of their critical thinking. It robs them of their skepticism. It robs them of everything that we need. And it's simply this kind of messianic fantasy world. Right, but and the Buck's like, okay, so the CIA has been undermining Trump for the last 532 days. Okay, yeah, fine. It's not affecting you. It's affecting all of these other idiots. It's setting... I mean, honestly, I have more conflict within the MAGA crowd than I ever have with the leftists. The leftists just ignore me. But they don't want to hear that. They don't want to hear that Trump doesn't have a plan. If I criticize a move in foreign policy or domestic policy, they're like, no. Q said it's going to be fine, dude. I'm like, no, it's not going to be fine. It's not. Give me a break. He's there to control and divide people. That's his job. The Psy-Op. And my hackles went up the minute he showed up. And it's the same for the Obama. Thorium pops up. It's same for the Obama zombies. Not once their Jesus is in, everything is saint, and everything is in everything. He's a saint in what he does. No question. Just follow the Jesus. Both groups are horrible. Exactly. Oh, I'm not worried about the midterms, Buck. Buck is worried. Buck is thinking tactically in terms of the midterms and everything else. I'm talking about a bigger problem, which is the culture war and the upcoming civil war. I'm thinking 5 years ahead here. I'm not looking at the midterms. The midterms are going to be fine. Okay. The only question in the midterms is, are there enough actual Trump guys and gals running for office in the Senate that they can overcome Romney and whoever they replace McCain with and all of that, because we're losing Orrin Hatch and we're getting Romney. That's a loss. We had Jeff Sessions and now we have Doug Jones. That's a loss. Okay. So, it was 52-47. Now it's 54-45 going into the midterm. So Trump actually needs to pick up 6 real seats in order to get a clear majority in the Senate to be able to go forward. Okay. And that's my bigger worry. I'm more worried about Romney winning in Utah than I am anything else. But I don't want us sitting here arguing about QAnon and spending 3 hours defending each other on Twitter, or attempting to engage at that level, to waste my freaking time or waste your time on Twitter when we have better things to be doing. When we should be researching these deep connections and getting this shit out there. Right? That's what's important. It's really important that we that we do this. And it's really important that we stand our ground on this. This in particular, This live stream is the one that I need to get a bigger audience for. More people need to hear this and understand it and just reject this whole QAnon bullshit, even if he's real. So what? It's like the whole Steve Pasenik thing during the election, right? All of a sudden, this guy Steve Pasenik comes out and, telling us that there's a counter coup going on within the government, that there's all this stuff happening, and all stuff that we want to hear. It all feeds this heroic narrative, this movie script narrative, this wag the dog shit. And it may be true, but really? And I've been watching Alex Jones for 15 years. I still can't tell whether he's a CIA plant or not. That's how deep this stuff is. Okay? Always remain skeptical. Always. Because these people are desperate. They're showing their desperation every day with the way things are going. So why wouldn't they create QAnon? I know my message isn't mass appeal, William. I know that. I wish it was, but it's not. I know. We're gonna work at the fringe for as long as possible. But stuff like this is a reminder in a kind of wider audience sense. A kind of wider audience sense is it is time to start building a kind of wider audience at a certain level. That audience should come this way over time. And things like Q are designed to keep people from coming to people like me. So, I mean, yeah, is it a little personal? Yes, it is. But I understand that, and that's fine, okay? But you understand that it's that kind of thinking, it's that kind of Psy-Op that retards the true red pilling of people to the point where they're willing and to truly call bullshit on it all. It's great that people are somewhat getting there. It's also important to get them that last 30 to 40%, because that's the important part. You can get people half red pilled, but they can always fall backwards, because it's like, I mean, think of it this way. I for me, it's like there's certain moments in film or story history where, in the stories that that shaped me, right? There's always that moment where a person may or may not be able to make the final leap, right? So it's like Cypher in the Matrix. Now, he jacked out, he hated it, and then he wanted to go back in, and he was willing to betray them. That's one guy. Then there's the other one would be SEN from THX 1138, Donald Pleasance's character, THX 1138, who hoards during the escape, has hoarded all the food, and he gets to the edge of the world, and he can escape. There's nothing stopping him, and then he doesn't, and he's taken away because the unknown is too scary. It's easier to fall back. It really is easy to fall back into that to the dominant paradigm, because it's hard to that's the real hard work. That's the clean your room moment, as Jordan Peterson would put it. That's the take responsibility for yourself, clean your room, get your shit in order, and take responsibility for everything. That's hard. Right. I'm talking about the people who think they're red pill. What do you think Hubert's role is? Hubert? I'm not sure who you're talking about. Sorry. And so while I wait for that response, it's really important to be to have as many people around you to help support you get through that. And you don't need a crutch like QAnon to help you get through it. QAnon is literally opiates to the masses, to keep them complacent and to keep them kind of in a state of infantile in a kind of infantile state of rebellion. Easy for them to fall back, thinking, oh, the work's already done. Trump's got a plan. I don't have to work hard. Oh, yeah, you do. No, really, you do. You got to be here every day. And spending your time deciphering Q stuff is not winning. It's losing. It truly is losing. How many thousands of hours have been wasted over QAnon. Now, on the other side of it, yeah, I think the TX History Lover is asking me about the hashtag walk away movement. I think it's brilliant. That I think is real. Do I think Candace Owens is completely real? Probably not. Do I think this is real? I think so. I think even if it wasn't real to start out with, I think it's getting real. Oh, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, there's a bunch of. I know there's a bunch of investigations happening. I know there's a bunch of stuff happening behind the scenes. I'm not completely convinced that Jeff Sessions is completely useless. For example, I think he's somewhat useless. Ben Shapiro is a fake. The history lover. He's actually another one of those that you absolutely don't want to. He's absolutely the kind of the latest version of like early Tucker Carlson and Jonah Goldberg and the rest of them. Okay, I mean, early on, Tucker Carlson was a George Will clone, right? His goal was to be the young George Will, and then he had an awakening. Then he met Ron Paul, and everything changed. To be honest with you, Tucker Carlson's entire career path changed the minute he spent 2 weeks with Ron Paul on the campaign trail. He was absolutely controlled opposition, Ben Shapiro. He's and on the other side he's a paid Apex shill, yes. And he's useless, and he's wasting Jordan. And for example, he's wasting Dave Rubin's time and Jordan Peterson's time and everybody's time by being where he is. He's wasting their time. Yes, just like Richard Spencer. Krauthammer 2.0. But he's not as smart as Krauthammer. Oh, Tucker Carlson is going to get removed. He can't survive in this environment. No way. So, no, I'm very happy with what I'm seeing from Tucker Carlson. He's fantastic where he is. But everything changed. I remember when he spent time with Ron Paul on the campaign trail, and everything about him changed from that moment forward. It was like watching somebody wake up. You're talking about, him spending 2 weeks or a week or whatever the hell it was with Ron Paul on the campaign trail and just chatting with Ron Paul about stuff. You can imagine how much of a red pill experience that is for somebody who is already receptive to most of that message. If smart is evil, all it means is that evil isn't stupid. Well, that was funny. I spent a couple hours last night. My 4th of July actually was spent. We didn't actually do anything quote unquote patriotic. I spent a couple hours last night. This is the last thing I'm going to talk about before I get off, because we're at the 29-minute mark. With a young guy from India. Actually, we were talking geopolitics for a couple of hours. It's Wednesday night's my normal gaming night, but apparently everybody else didn't show up, and we didn't say, oh yeah, by the way, next week's 4th of July and we're not having a thing, right? And I went, was it? And then this guy showed up, and I showed up. I dropped Sophie off at her friend's house, to hang out for the evening. And I showed up, and there was just the two of us, and we sat and chat geopolitics for a couple of hours, and we had a great time. And this kid was, I say kid, he's 25. Really great perspective on the world, and he didn't realize just how quote unquote based he actually was. And it was a very good talk because he spent time living in Belgium. And obviously, he grew up in India, and spent time in Germany, and and then talking about all of these things that are happening, and immigration, and the way the EU is structured, and where liberalism is going, and all of this stuff. And he's like, I don't even get what's going on with people today, and it's pretty funny. The more I encounter the younger generation, the more I spend time with them. It's funny. The more I'm convinced that everything's going to be fine. One of the other guys in that gaming group is a young Frenchman who's gay. He's French, and we spent about an hour chatting about geopolitics one night after we were done. We were like walking to our cars, and surprisingly, we hit like all the same points. I mean, he was not quite where I am, but lots of common ground about what's going on with the United States and all of that stuff. So it's really, really interesting to see how these narratives are not working. Identity. Shapiro is a Zionist. Identity politics for me, but not for thee. Total hypocrite. Yeah, he's absolutely. That's absolutely correct. All right, guys. I think it's fair to say that we're all in agreement that at a certain level, even if Q's not a LARP, it doesn't matter. As Green Penguin put it on YouTube earlier, matter if he's real or not. Nothing we can do about it. We're not in control of it. So it doesn't give you any more sense of control. All it is a placebo to de-stress you that there is a plan. Got news for you. Ain't no plan. There's the force of history, and there's the force of economics. And as I said to Garland Nixon this morning, what a shock. People respond to incentives. Talk about this stuff all the time, right? In terms of economics. So there it is. All right, guys, I've got a phone call coming in. I got to go. You guys take care. We'll talk to you later. Keep your stick on the ice.